Order, please rise for the pledge and the prayer.
Father Redeemer, as we of the Kewaunee County Board assemble here tonight, just ahead of our Thanksgiving Day celebrations, please help us to remember all that we do have to be thankful for. Our family, our community, our beautiful surroundings, and yes, the freedom to meet here, to learn and to take action in a process that is open and public. As concerned citizens, board members, elected county officials, county staff members, and the press participate in this process, please guide our thoughts, conversations, and actions so that in the end, we will have followed our highest principles and acted in ways that are fair to all and that will positively impact the lives of each citizen now and in the future. We are here tonight to do important work that will in some way affect every person in the county. Please help us to do our very best. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Luft. Good evening, everyone. The roll call shows 18 board members present. 2 may still come later, but they will be excused if they do not attend. I ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Wagner, second by Ms. Haskey. Any questions regarding the agenda? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. Ask for a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Wagner, second by Dobbins. Are there any questions or amendments to the minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next is citizens' input. Has anyone signed up to talk to the board?
Yes.
Please read the format.
The board will hear concerns members of the public wish to raise, but will not discuss or take action on any matter until the matter can be placed on an agenda with proper notice to the public. The board welcomes citizens to present their concerns to the board in a professional manner relevant to issues affecting Kewaunee County. Each citizen may take 3 minutes to present their concern, and the board has allotted a total of 20 minutes for this portion of the meeting. Please be mindful, the board may halt any disruptive comments and any comments that are threatening, vulgar, or abusive.
Thank you. You may call the first person.
Rob Burke.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity. I'd like to talk to you about restoring the funding for one of the 2 program assistants in the Extension Office. One of the 2 positions was eliminated in the executive's proposed budget, and well, in the Extension Office, the Extension Committee, we voted to restore that funding. We asked the Personnel or Executive Committee, and they voted too, but the Finance Committee was unable to fund the position. So in essence, I'm coming here tonight to ask you to restore that funding for our program assistant. And I'm really concerned about the overall level of productivity and the level of service that the Extension Office is able to provide to the public. When we have both our program assistants, it's really essential for them to be able to help our educators go out and touch as many people as possible, educate and serve as many people as possible. Both those program assistants together are working really hard to expand the number of people in Kewaunee County that our agents are able to help, whether it's in farm management, whether it's a nutrient management types of programs that we might be organizing. The program assistants play a huge role in making sure that people that we get the word out and that people come and they can be registered and participate in these educational programs. And it's the quality and the quantity of programming that would be affected without both of our program assistants. And so during your debates tonight, when you're debating on that, I would appreciate your thoughts and support the Extension Office and our mission to help educate people in Kewaunee County for the betterment of the county, and maintain our excellent level of service and the volume of programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Has anyone else signed up?
Louise Wolf.
I am the program assistant whose position is proposed to be eliminated. And I've seen many changes in UW Extension as well as Kewaunee County over the years. I now find myself in the position of losing my employment with Kewaunee County. I am a reasonable person who understands budget cuts and change, but I would ask that you also consider the human side of this decision, which is my personal experience with Kewaunee County. Over the years, I have been given more duties when the third office support position was eliminated, as well as different duties when the most recent support staff was hired. I did the work of both support staff when the previous one retired. I willingly took on extra work whenever needed and never once asked for extra compensation. To be told that someone else has the skills for the job that I've been doing for 20 years and almost a full year on my own is unacceptable to me. I was told that seniority and age are not things that are considered when cutting positions, which is somewhat understandable. However, I would like you to know from my perspective how devastating it can be to the person whose position is being cut after 20 years of being a dedicated employee and who is the sole provider for their family. I've been told I will lose my health insurance as well as all of my accrued sick leave. While I understand the county is run as a business, my hope is that the people entrusted to do so also have compassion and understanding for the dedicated employees helping to serve the public. As a competent, loyal, and dedicated employee of the Kewaunee County UW Extension Office for the past 20 years, I am respectfully requesting that the proposal to eliminate my position be removed from the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No.
No one else has signed up, but anyone else that is present may speak to the board. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone wish to speak? Does anyone wish to speak? Hearing no reply, we'll close citizens' input and move to appointments. Could the clerk please read the first appointment?
Kewaunee County EMS Council, James Kleiman.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Augustine, second by Mr. Mastler. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The appointment is approved. Would the clerk please read the next appointment?
Human Services Board appointment, Mark Buchanan and Julie Janicek.
Thank you. I ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Dobbins, second by Haskey. Are there any questions about the appointment? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Clerk, please read the next appointment.
ADRC Board, Jim Hathaway, Paul Rabbit, and Sandy Schleiss-Ullman.
Thank you. I ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Schillen. Second by Mr. Loft. Are there any questions about the appointment? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The appointment is approved. Clerk may read the next appointment.
Commission on Aging, Helen Clinton and Sandy Schleiss-Ullman.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to approve. Anyone else out there? Motion by Luff, second by Romden. Any questions about the appointment? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The appointment is approved. Please read the next appointment.
Honorable members of the Kewaunee County Board, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 83.01 sub 1 sub C, I hereby appoint Todd Every to the position of Kewaunee County Highway Commissioner, subject to board approval. Term January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2021.
Thank you. I'd ask for motion to approve. Motion by Poppy, second by Mr. Olson. Are there any questions on this appointment? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? The appointment is approved. That completes our appointments. We'll move to annual reports. First report is Veteran Service Officer Rob Stearns. His first try at this. Welcome.
Chairman, members of the board, good evening. For those who haven't met me, I'm Robert Stearns. I'm the County Veteran Service Officer, and this will be my annual brief. Our office acts as an asset to our veteran community, assisting in navigating the convoluted system that our state and federal government in order to capture every benefit that is out there for our soldiers, young and old. My office cries, laughs, and elates as our cases unfold and the veteran's full story finally gets heard. It is our duty to continue to find these service members and provide all we can to assist them and to assist those that served before us. Our current veteran population in Kewaunee County is 1,255 veterans. This number does not reflect the spouses, widows, and dependents of our veterans that my office has also helped navigate the VA system. Our office diligently tries to find those that served our country and support those that served us and provide every benefit the state and federal government affords them. There's a total of 290 veterans that are currently receiving compensation and pension within our county. And approximately 15% of which are 65 years and older. This is a concern for me as we show that our veteran population is aging and we don't see the new soldiers coming into our community. The VA projects that each year our veteran population will decrease by 1.8% total, that our male veteran population nationwide will decrease by 2.2% on average, and then the female population on the reverse side will increase by 0.6% annually. This is due to new stats for our soldiers. By the year 2025, the average group spread will be leveled back out, but our population will decrease down to 12 million veterans currently. VA has steadily made improvements in the process. Nearly 5.2 million veterans are being served currently by the VA, which pays out $91 billion in compensation and pension in 2018 alone. Their backlog has decreased exponentially, averaging approximately 125 days for a fully developed claim to final decision. We have also seen the accuracy of our claims increase by 4%. You might ask yourself, how does this affect our county veterans? The answer is very simple. VA evolves and improves their system. Our veterans' claims are processed faster and more accurately, resulting in less time. This also shows the financial coming back into the county that we are not seeing the large payouts of old, but instead we are seeing the veterans receiving their monthly amounts in a higher sooner. On the next few slides, our office activity, as you can see, is steady to say the least. We processed over 500 case documents, plus 650 sit-downs with veterans. The office fielded over 1,900 calls. The thing about these cases is never just one form or one appointment. It takes time to develop, research, and accurately tell each veteran's story. Our office assisted 13 veterans in the relief from the levy fund, which exhausted the $4,000 granted to us by the county. The total benefit dollars that has been rolled out by VA to our county is $10,776,000, whether it's compensation, pension, medical, or education. Comparing that to the current population of 1,255 vets, that's approximately $8,588 per veteran. We have continued to raise the bar in getting our veterans more. As shown, we are also above the state average. Now let's break this down a bit further. For compensation and pension dollars, this accounts for $5,469,000. This is actual direct compensation in money. It's paid to our veterans, our widows, and our spouses, and our dependents. Medical accounts for $4,725,000. This goes to the veterans that are receiving VA health, Champ VA, or community care. The education and voc rehab accounts for $314,000 in benefits. This again is not a monetary, but it's a college tuition and education program. One thing our veterans struggle is upon returning to civilian life, service members disproportionately find themselves underemployed, working in lower paying, lower status jobs that fall short of leveraging their skills and education. The voc rehab program allows our veterans to use their talents that they gained and the skills they can find meaningful work. The surviving spouse benefits accounts for money paid directly to those individuals that meet the requirement of being a surviving spouse that has died from an ailment that is service-connected, and it can be granted as much as $1,600 per month in some cases. On the next slide, we'll take a quick snapshot of our veteran community. As you can see, over the last 6 years, the population has decreased steadily, losing approximately 15% of our population over the course of 6 years. Again, I reiterate that this number does not reflect when losing a vet, we are often gaining a widow or a dependent in which we will help guide them through the system. Despite the decrease in population, our office has increased its benefits to our veterans over the course of 6 years by 99.6%. And as you can see, year over year, it was a 1.3% gain that attested to the claims not needing to be back paid, but instead working new discoveries. The Veteran Relief Levy Fund was used to help our veterans that were in dire need to get them through. We all find ourselves at some point in life needing a helping hand and to get us through a rough patch. With the help of my commissioners and my committee, we are that helping hand. We exhaust the funds available, and we did not turn away any single vet that requested help. Of course, we still vetted them correctly and made sure that the need was real. The Wisconsin Property Tax Credit is available to all our veterans who are raised to 100% service-connected disability or individual unemployment due to service-related injuries or illness, and the surviving spouse of those veterans whose death is determined to have been related to their service. This includes their primary residence and up to 1 acre that is paid in taxes. In 2018, our county had 58 veterans surviving spouses that met the standard. This was a decrease from last year. The state returned approximately $150,000, which was an increase from a year solely due to the property tax was increased. The one thing to remember is there are certain circumstances that an individual can meet the standard is just 1 year. I.e., if you're diagnosed for cancers and it goes into remission, if your unemployability has been granted and then later found and reversed, that benefit will go away. So this number will fluctuate. In conclusion, VA continues to change and evolve. New laws have been passed and benefits decisions have been made in order to correct the wrongs. My office is ready to tackle the new challenges and assist every veteran and family. They have fought for us, and it's my honor to continue to fight for them. This concludes my briefing. I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Rob. Next, Administrator Feld, do you have anything for this evening?
Nothing. I just wanted to make aware that to the board, Rob is doing an outstanding job. You may have seen the press release come out from Jennifer Gonzalez the other day about the great work, the partnership between our Veteran Service Office and Nicolay Bank, more money for our vets, which is always a good thing. So keep up the good work, Rob.
How many board members are veterans? I'm not sure I know this. I see 2, yeah. Okay, that concludes our reports. We'll go to committee reports. First report is Highway Solid Waste, meeting from September. Are there any questions for Mr. Poppy? No questions. Executive committee did not have minutes, so we'll go to Public Health Veterans, meeting from October. Any questions for Ms. Dobbins? Yes, Ms. Dobbins.
Our next meeting is on Veterans Day, and because of that, generally, most months, public health meets first and veterans meets second. We're going to have veterans meet first so that they can go on for activities on Veterans Day. So if anybody would be wanting to come, have public health will meet about 9:15. Veterans will meet about 8:30.
Thank you. There are no questions, so we'll go to UW Extension, no minutes. Land and Water, October minutes. Any questions for Mr. Wagner or Mr. Poppy? I think chaired that meeting, but questions for that committee? There are no questions. We'll go to Public Safety, no minutes. Then Finance, so October minutes. Any questions for Ms. Haskey? Mr. Wagner.
I guess when I read the minutes, I was looking for any mention whatsoever about any discussion that took place concerning the finance committee's dealing with the position, the 1.2 position, the full position for extension and the 0.2 position in Register of Deeds office that had been voted by the executive committee to put back into the budget, and there's no discussion whatsoever about that in the finance committee minutes.
Was that in the prior months? Does anyone know? Mr. Romden.
The reason there's nothing in the minutes is because I made a motion to put those positions back into the budget and got no second from anybody else on the committee. So there's your answer, Chuck.
I knew that, but the minutes should reflect that.
I think those were the minutes that were passed out on our desk last month. I think. They weren't part of the packet. They were loose on our desk.
I recall the minutes said that there was a motion that didn't get a second, and the motion failed. It has to be the prior month, Chuck.
I think I remember that in there, that I made a motion but got no second.
Right. But I don't have those minutes with me, so I can't verify that. Any other questions about the Finance Committee?
Am I right on that?
Next, we'll go to Human Services. Any questions from Ms. Schillen? Okay, next is Parks and Promotion. They attempted to have a meeting, but they didn't have a quorum, so there was no meeting. We go to Revolving Loan, no minutes. KCDC, no minutes in the packet. Broadband, we do have minutes. Any questions for Mr. Feld on the Broadband Committee? Yes, Tom.
Did we set a date for the next committee meeting? Because I had to leave that one early. This Friday?
This Friday at 1 o'clock.
Okay, I won't be there for that meeting.
Any other questions for Mr. Feld about the Broadband Study Committee? I'm going to just mention that I think we're making some pretty serious progress right now. We had presentations from various vendors that presented to the committee what they think their vision is for helping us with the broadband project. We'll be taking that up on Friday to potentially select a partner for the next round of grants coming out of the state, PSC. So if that falls in line, and if we can get the type of grant that moves us considerably forward, that's our goal. Scott, do you want to say anything about that? Or?
I think you summarized it just well.
Okay. All right. Public Safety Committee, there was no minutes. First reading of ordinance, there is none.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just a comment. Chuck, the answer to your question is it's in the minutes of the October 11th finance meeting. Both issues were on the Register of Deeds and the UW Extension whether I made the motion to follow the executive committee recommendation, and neither motion received a second.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was sure we had it somewhere, yeah.
I guess I find it very disturbing when a committee of 5 feels that they should override a decision that was made by the executive committee. In other words, the finance committee overrode a decision that was already discussed and decided at the executive committee level, to put those positions back into the budget. It's the finance committee's duty to fund those. Where they find the money, that is up to them, between them and the administrator and the finance director, moving things around, doing what they have to do. What disturbs me about it is, in a body like this, and we have this stated at every meeting, that we should be open and have good discussions and everything else, which we do. And I felt that there was I don't know if I would call it a bonding of this board, but an understanding among the board members, and things have been basically moving along fairly well. We can have disagreements on any issues, but I think when it comes to a procedure such as this, I find that very disturbing.
Chuck, I'm going to have to cut you short because you're out of order. There's no agenda item we're speaking to. We're in committee
Well, I'm
reports.
back to the finance committee minutes.
You want to go back to that? Okay, I'll reopen the finance committee discussion and then you continue.
And basically, that's about all I was going to say, is that I find it that it was very disturbing that the finance committee chose to override the executive committee and basically eliminated the 1.2 position. So
There will likely be further discussion during the budget process on that topic. Okay, we were on ordinance. There are none. So we go to number 12, consideration of resolutions. Would the clerk please read the first resolution?
A resolution approving transfer of budgeted funds, preliminary design services, highway shop, Barrientos Design and Consulting. Fiscal impact, $17,140 from Roads and Bridges Fund.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Romden, second by Mr. Cretney. Are there any questions about the resolution? This resolution was approved by the Finance Committee about half an hour ago, so it's sent to the board with their recommendation. Are there any questions? You may register your vote. Yes is to go forward with the project planning. No is to deny that. The resolution is approved, 19 yes, 0 no. Okay, you may read the next resolution.
A resolution approving utility easement, WAK Properties LLC, fiber easement across fairgrounds.
I'd ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Luff, second by Mr. Koshart. Are there any questions about this project easement? I believe it's fiber optic conduit they're running through a short piece of the fairground property to link two different segments of the WAC properties, better known as, what is the name of their company? DNS Machine, yes. Any questions? Mr.
I
Wagner?
have a question, and did I read it wrong, or in the description of it, or talking about it, that they were going to run part of this through conduit above ground in order to get through that, across that drainage ditch?
Jeff, do you recall that? Because there was discussion about the waterway.
I think that's right.
there's gonna be some junction box. I'm not sure precisely how they're gonna run it, but
Yeah. When I look at the diagram, it shows that the two lines are coming to junction boxes, and then the way I interpreted it is that they're gonna run conduit and then run the fiber optic in the conduit line, but above ground. Basically, that's the only protection for it is gonna be this conduit. And I guess I have some concern over that, having worked in the WPS and knowing a little bit about this, maybe enough to be dangerous and not enough, but.
Well, I think,
I would rather have more protection for it. I would rather see it underground, but.
okay, Jeff, I think is coming up. Have you started doing an agreement? We
came
have to
up-
cover that
yeah,
type
this
of thing.
came up late last week, and in order to facilitate this quick approval, we brought it to the board tonight. Otherwise, it would have had to wait till December, and I presume they want to bury this before it freezes. So I can't honestly answer if they're going to go over that drainage ditch or under it. And
I don't have any problem with the project. I'm just concerned for the.
I think what we would expect that if the conduit and wire is damaged, the county is held harmless. And I would expect that's the type of language Jeff's working on. And I think even we could include if we damage it by accident, that we should be held harmless. If we happen to drive a post in or a stake or something, yeah. Any other questions on this topic? You may register your vote. Resolution is approved, 19 yes, 0 no. Okay, will the clerk please read the last resolution?
2020 budget and 2019 tax levy.
Please read the total levy and also the tax rate. I think it's on the second page. Net tax levy.
Okay, net tax levy, 12,360,443, and tax rate $7.08.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, are we at a point in the meeting where we could propose amendments to the existing proposed budget?
We will be shortly, once we have motions to approve the budget as it is presented, then amendments are in order after that.
Thank you.
Motion
Mr.
by
Chairman.
Massler, second by Luft. Okay, are there any amendments offered or comments on the budget? And I would ask you, well, first I got to go back to the clerk. Have we had any written proposals or communications from board members regarding the budget?
No.
Okay, then the floor is open for discussion and or amendments to the budget. Please identify the page and identify the topic and the department so that we can all be on the same page. If it's a budget increase, if you have a proposal as to how to fund the budget increase, we'd appreciate that also. I'll leave plenty of time for you to come up with response to the budget. Mr. Romden.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few proposed amendments, and I'm wondering how I should actually present them, because two amendments are increasing the amount of the levy, but two other amendments are taking money out of the proposed levy to fund those positions. So you want me to do that as a group?
I think we should do one at a time.
I would agree.
Okay.
Because some may pass, some may fail. And let's say a couple are a plus number and a couple are a minus. The finance director is going to have to reconcile this. We're going to have to reconcile it to make the budget balance. So we'll take them one by one.
Okay, I have an amendment here that I'd like to propose to the board. And I'd like to preface my amendments with a couple of comments. I think this board's, there's three main things that I feel personally that this board is charged with. One of them is to set policy that benefits everyone in the county. The other one is to hire employees to carry out that policy and to take care of those employees. And the third, our third responsibility is to be fiscal stewards of the taxpayers' money. So having said that, this amendment is going to be based on action by the executive committee. I would like to make an amendment to the proposed 2020 budget on page 269 of the budget, which refers to the University Extension budget. And this is being made as an amendment per the recommendation of the executive committee on the 10th of October. I'd like to add to the 2020 budget line item 155,620, 121 wages, $46,509. Line 155,620, 151 Social Security, 3558. Line 55,620, 152 retirement, 3139. Line 155,620, 153 workers' compensation, $86. Line 55,620, 154 health insurance, $24,107. And line 155,620, 155 dental insurance, $612, for a total addition to the UW Extension budget of $78,011.
Thank you. Paul, were you making notes on this? Okay, thank you very much. All right, next I'm going to ask if there's a second for that amendment. Second by Mr. Wagner. We'll have discussion, but I'd like the administrator to explain the rationale behind the administrator's proposal.
When I first put together this budget, I was looking at staff needs both currently as well as into the future. If you remember, it was just a few years ago that the program assistant had retired, and we were looking as to whether to fill that position or not. The thought at the time was, because of farm technology days on the horizon, that we would have that additional administrative support position, or that program assistant position, to be filled to help with the farm technology days. Farm technology days is now gone. If I also look at other counties within this region, their extension offices have one administrative staff person. The other part, and I know there'll be another part coming in, but I want to be very clear to the board. We know that there will be staffing pressures coming up in the next few years, large staffing pressures, more than likely beyond what our current tax levy would be able to carry. Therefore, whether this board decides to go to a referendum to raise additional funds to deal with that staff pressure, or whether they will decide that there will have to be staff reductions, that will come in a few years. If it's staff reductions, then that's something that we could have started to address now. If it comes to a referendum, I am almost certain that the public will go back and look at the minutes. The public will go back and look at the video of tonight's meeting. The public will go back and look at the stories that the media is writing tonight as to whether the board was willing to make those difficult, not easy, but difficult decisions at this time instead of waiting. So those were the reasons that I had recommended for the 1.0 FTE elimination in the UW Extension office.
Thank you, Scott. And just for clarification, Tom, the numbers that you recited, these are 2020 payroll
Proposed.
numbers with the progression of the step increase, and it's all included?
Those were the numbers that were in the budget for 2020.
Okay, so those numbers should be correct.
Can
Are
I
they-
make a further comment?
Sure.
I want to make sure I say this the right way so I don't offend anyone, but over the last few years when this board took up the county pay plan, one of the themes that was said at many of the personnel meetings was that we are not going to, as a board, look at eliminating anybody's position. We will look at evaluating positions as people resign or retire. And I was under the impression that that was our position, but I could be wrong. As far as projecting out into the future of what our staffing levels are going to be, none of us know that. And I don't think we need to take it out on a 20-plus year veteran employee of the county to look at what we're going to be doing possibly a few years down the road. I think our job is to protect our employees.
Mr. Wagner?
To use the viewpoint that we must trim employee numbers today, even though it's slight, 1.2, in order to make room for new jail employees in a couple of years is foolish and, in my opinion, downright irresponsible. The jail and its staffing have to be sold to the public as a package. We need to make the public understand that to run this new facility is going to take more people. And we have to let the people know how much that's going to cost this county as we go down the road. That would be doing the right thing. To do any less would be deceitful, in my opinion. Basically lying to the public. So I don't believe the cutting of this position, which I also believe is very foolish because it's needed. Cutting this one position in the extension department is going to definitely cut services, cut the amount of people. People are going to get very disappointed when they contact the office because there's not going to be someone there to answer the phone. And we're going to be giving less service. And this is an extremely important department. I think decisions like this come about when someone does not fully understand what that department does. And that's why sometimes they become targets, easy targets.
Any other comments? Ms. Dobbins?
I am on the Extension Committee. I actually went to Extension Committee meetings even when I wasn't on the committee because its focus is education, and that's my whole career is education. And after the K-12 education and your college education, there aren't as many opportunities to help a community continue to be educated. University Extension's role is to do that for Kewaunee County. They have people that work with youth, people that work with children, with teens, with adults. I came in today to the Finance Committee meeting and there was a parenting training going on. This is an opportunity for us to help our community remain educated. An example of something wonderful that they've been doing is a parenting class for children with disabilities, but also for parents when those children become adult with disabilities, because you are actually being a parent your whole life if you have an adult with a disability. That's just one small part of it. They do the rural safety days at the fairground that I've gone to every year. And this University Extension used to have 4 educators, and one is now gone. That position is gone. So those 3 educators have to try to cover the things that 4 used to do. And they need that administrative staff to be able to meet all the goals for keeping our community educated.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Poppy.
I also serve on that committee for the extension, and I believe it's always been said that this is one government program that works well for our county. You know, it's a plus for us, and they offer a lot of stuff. Their educators are awesome, and I think we need to support them. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before we vote on the amendment. Okay. The motion is to restore $78,011 to the budget for payroll expenses to restore 1 FTE in the Extension Department. Yes is to restore the funds, and no is to leave the budget as presented. So you may register your vote. The amendment is approved, 11 yes and 8 no. So, Mr. Robnin, were you going to follow that with another suggestion on the revenue side of it, or?
I could do that. I have a couple other amendments for taking out.
Do it in the order you please, yes.
The next amendment I have would be referring to the to the part-time position in the Register of Deeds office. At the last board meeting, you heard under public comment from Steve Hansen and from Jermaine in reference to that position. It's not a lot of money, but they felt it was an important position. So I would like to make a motion to amend the 2020 proposed budget under the Register of Deeds office by adding to line, this is on page 235, by the way, of the budget. I propose to add to line 151,710, 125 wages, $7,420. Line 151,710, 151 Social Security, 567, and line 151,710, 153 Workman's Compensation, $13, for a total of $8,000 to be added to the Register of Deeds budget.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Ms. Teskey. Any discussion on the motion to restore a part-time funding in the Register of Deeds office?
What was the total on that?
8,000 total. But is it exact, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Just one further comment. Again, I bring this forward to the full board because this was in fact approved initially by the executive committee of this board, of this body. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would the administrator like to give the rationale behind the budget proposal? Linda, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The rationale as to the elimination of the .2 temporary position is that the county currently has existing staff that can do this work. The .2 position comes out to 8 hours per week. We currently have staff that can assist at a minimum of 10 hours per week. So therefore, as county administrator, I felt it was sufficient that we could be using and allocating our existing staff to assist with Register of Deeds work and not be adding additional staff to do that work.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion to amend? All right, a vote yes would be approve the amendment to add $8,000 back into the budget to provide a part-time staff position for the Register of Deeds office. And I believe it's the same arrangement we had for at least a couple of years now. Yes is for that. No is to keep the budget as presented. The amendment is approved, 10 yes, 9 no. All right, we'll go back to consideration of any other comments or amendments to the budget. Mr. Romden?
I have a couple of amendments to the revenue side of the budget that could pay for the positions that we just put back in. The first one is on page 105 of the budget. It refers to the $40,000 funding for KCEDC. If you remember at last year's budget, this was also in the budget as a levy item. And this board decided to take it off the levy and take it out of the Economic Development Fund. My proposal would be, again this year, this relates to line on page 105, account 155-113-601, KCEDC, $40,000. I would like to see that taken out of the levy and actually funded through the Economic Development Fund and not on the tax levy.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Romden's motion? Mr. Wagner seconds the motion. And the motion is to fund $40,000 for KCDC, not through the levy, but through the Economic Development Fund, sometimes referred to as the Dominion Fund. Are there any questions or comments on the motion to amend? You may register your vote. Yes is to approve Mr. Romden's amendment. No is to disapprove. Mr. Wagner, yeah. The amendment is approved, 18 yes, 1 no. Paul's keeping up, okay, good, thank you. All right, any other questions or amendments to the budget? Mr. Romden.
This one might merit some additional discussion, especially by the members of this board who are serving on the Broadband Study Committee. This is on page 20 of the budget. It's under contracted services, account number 151,410,296. It reflects an expenditure of contracted services, 51,410,296. Contracted services, $60,000.
Page 20.
It's part of a $145,000 total number in your budget. I believe there's some money in there for the second phase of the jail study. There's some money in there for the 9/11, and then the rest is I think $60,000 proposed for a feasibility study for broadband. as the meetings for the broadband committee have progressed, I think that there's a pretty good idea of what direction the county wants to go in as far as additional broadband expansion and what's going to be the best interests of everyone in the county. And I don't feel that we need to spend $60,000 on a feasibility study. So I would move to amend the budget under that line item 51,410,296 to remove the $60,000 from the proposed 2020 budget.
I gotta write this down, make sure I get it right. Line 296.
The total in the budget right now, I believe, is 145,000. The net then would, if you take out 60, the net would be 85.5.
Right.
Is that right, Paul? 145.5, sorry.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Ramdan's motion? Second by Ms. Dobbins. Yes, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, and I thank Paul for reminding me, the $145,500 that is there for contracted services, the money that is there is coming out of fund balance. So this is not levy money that is being used. You can still take it out. I'm not saying not to. I'm just wanting to make the board aware that if you take the $60,000 out, it would, and you're just taking out, it would revert back to the general fund. It would not be. It's not part of tax levy money being used.
I was not aware that it was not part of the levy money, but regardless, I don't think we need to spend 60 grand for something that I think we know what direction we're going in.
Yeah, I don't see where it's noted that it came from fund balance.
I don't either. That's why I brought it up.
I have it in my pencil notes, but I don't know where it came from. But yes, Ms. Teskey.
I was gonna ask the same thing on that page 20 and 21. Nowhere does it say fund balance of 145,000 unless it's on a different page. And I think, and on the resolution for tonight, it says plus fund balance retained is only 49,000.
Paul, give me the page that you were referring to. Page 105.
Part of a bigger number.
Okay.
Well, that figure is 201,000.
Where is this number?
It's not listed individually, it's a part of the 201,000.
What line is that on? I can't even find that.
The last revenue line, 100.49202,000, transfer from fund balance. The total that you see here is 201,000. The 145 is part of that.
And how are we supposed to know that? What makes up that 201?
Well, let's see. Give me a second, Linda. The motion, I think your intent, Mr. Ramdan, is to restore some money to the budget, to eliminate $60,000 worth of expenditure.
Correct.
And that would compensate for the other positive numbers that we already approved.
Yes, at this point, with the case EDC funding and then this 60,000, that would reduce the levy. Of course, now I'm told that the 60 is not part of the levy.
That is correct. What the board could do if they so chose is they could take $60,000 from the general fund and cover any, or I'll put it, probably the easier way is you could do it one of two different ways, Supervisor Romden. One, from the expenditures of the Register of Deeds and the extension, which comes out to roughly 86 and change. I think it's $86,011. If you have the $40,000 that used to be tax levy that is now coming from Dominion funds, that would reduce it to $46,011. You could make up that. I don't want to call it a shortfall, but that shortfall in quotes a couple different ways. One, you could allocate $46,011 from the general fund as a fund balance transfer, or you could take that $46,011 from another fund. I mean, from another line item.
Ms. Testi,
But the Register of Deeds portion of what we amended, that's coming out of Land Information Fund. So that doesn't have to be allocated from some other fund. It's already, I'm assuming, because Land Information Director volunteered some funds from his fund, from his department, to fund that position. So that money is taken care of.
that is correct. That was, there were enough funds that could be used for that purpose, yes.
No, that's incorrect, Supervisor Teske. What has happened is that $8,000 that is now being taken away from the Land Information Office is now going over to the Register of Deeds. So now you have to fill the hole that was created in the Land Information Office with either tax levy or with a fund balance transfer from the Land Information Fund.
Say the second part of that over.
So if I had it, so let's say it this way. Let's say that there was $18,000 of the state aid that was going to Land Information, and now you're taking 8,000 of that over to Register of Deeds. You've now created a hole in the Land Information Office of $8,000 because that aid was being allocated for the Land Information Office. So you have to fill that $8,000 hole either with tax levy or with some other funding source.
But he had a fund balance of $133,000.
I understand that, but nowhere in this budget have we allocated a specific fund balance transfer from the Land Information Fund to the Land Information Office. So the board could approve that if they so chose, or they could do it as a tax levy item.
So we still have to make a motion on the transfer of that money from Land Information Fund to the Register of Deeds?
That all depends on what you're doing, what you do here.
The topic under discussion right now is the $60,000 for the broadband study, which I understand the intent of that. But we have to clarify to make sure we know what the motion means exactly. Jeff, do you have a way to kind of consolidate the thoughts on that?
Right now, the motion on the floor is to reduce that line item by 60,000. That's the motion on the floor. So I suggest you clear up that matter, and if you want to do something further, that's fine. But let's not try to confuse several things into one. So if you want to reduce your professional or contracted services by 60,000, I think you should vote on that and then move on to the next step, if there is a next step.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, I have one question, I think, to Jeff. If that was pulled out of there, would there be real consequences to put it back in? We have that ad hoc committee, confronting it now, and we've had a couple people saying that it is moving forward. there may be a positive consensus without having the survey and without it being, in writing in the budget. So
So if at some later point you wanted to commission such a study and let's say it costed 60,000, you would have to come back before this board and get, I think, 2/3 majority to spend money that wasn't previously budgeted. So it's basically out of the budget, so it'd be like a budget transfer, and we do those routinely.
yeah, and if it is moving forward with the way it sounds like, I think that would be a viable option, is to pull it out and reconsider it when that ad hoc committee gets done with their recommendation.
Okay, Jeff stated the motion. I think it's fairly clear that the motion is simple: to remove the $60,000 portion of the $145,500 from the budget. And that is the extent of the motion. Are there any other questions about the motion? Yes is to remove the $60,000 for broadband study. No is to leave it in the budget, so you may vote. The budget amendment is approved, 18 yes, 1 no.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. I think for ease and clarity, as long as if it pleases the board, right now, and also you, Mr. Supervisor Ramden, since you had done it, is we have added back the extension committee position. The extension position for a total of $78,011. We have added back the .2 Register of Deeds position for the amount of $8,000. We have taken $40,000 that was used as tax levy for KCEDC and used Dominion funds. So my suggestion to make this neat and tidy, if the board would so choose, is we could do a fund balance transfer from the Land Information Fund for $8,000 to cover the shortfall that would be in the Land Information Office. And then we would do a reallocation of reducing the tax levy allocation that's for the Capital Improvement Fund and reduce that allocation by $38,011. That way, the extension position is completely funded, tied up nicely, and the Register of Deeds position is funded and tied up nicely. If it so please the board. Because I know it's much more difficult to know what fund is coming from what anywhere, and so I wanted to provide that as a possible option to the board.
Mr. Luft, you looked as confused as I feel.
Yeah, so that might be the neatest way to do it, but I'm wondering, does that reduce then the monies that we are trying to set aside for the capital improvement program?
Yes, by $38,000.
Yeah, and I'm not in love with that idea. I really do appreciate the fact that the county is thinking ahead to what our capital improvement needs are going to be, and it's not the first place I would like to go to see if we can't tap into that. I expect we're going to have needs that we're not even aware of at this juncture, and I'd like to keep that capital improvement fund as healthy as possible. That's just my comment.
So what are we net right now? We need to find some money yet?
Currently, because there has not been a vote on a possible transfer of $8,000 from the Land Information Fund to the Land Information Office, if that were to be done, then the outstanding balance would be $38,011, of which you could take that from the general fund if you wanted to do a fund balance transfer in that respect. because we were about to, it was proposed by the administrator to use $60,000 of general fund balance for these studies. You could use $38,011 from the general fund for the funding of this position, for this budget.
Mr. Love.
I would favor that second option, Scott, and here's why. We did get some good news tonight in our Finance Committee meeting about sales tax revenues, which would flow into the general fund, being a little bit above where we thought they might be. So rather than tap the capital improvement fund, I would opt for the general fund option. I think we'll be able to cover it with what we hope will be some additional funds coming in from sales tax.
Ms. Teskey.
I would like to make a motion that $8,000 come out of the land information fund and be transferred to the Register of Deeds fund. But
Okay,
or
thank you.
I should say not a fund to her department.
May I make a clarification, Mr.
Sure.
Chair?
What's the question?
May I make a suggestion, Supervisor Teskey? The previous action already transferred $8,000 to the Register of Deeds Fund. A suggestion would be that the $8,000 from the Land Information Fund go to the Land Information Office budget, and then you're clean.
Why am I doing that?
Because you've already transferred $8,000 from the Land Information Office budget to the Register of Deeds. The money has already been transferred to the Register of Deeds by your previous action. Okay. So you want to do it that way instead?
We can transfer it from the land information to the general fund to cover the Register of Deeds position. That I can take care of.
So,
Yes, what you're saying.
okay.
I'm right. Am I right?
Hold on, wait. I want to make sure, because if she's right, then I want to apologize and say you were right and I was wrong.
Yes.
You were right, I was wrong.
Thank you. But now I have another question.
Well, Linda, you have a motion on the floor.
That's right.
So, Mr. Wagner, did you want to second it? Seconded by Mr. Wagner. Now, did you want to make a further comment?
Oh, I have it on something else. So.
Oh, yeah, we're not there yet. Okay. Any other questions about the motion? Yeah, could Jeff, you want to restate it with Linda's consent to on the wording?
In simple terms, you already approved that funding. So in simple terms, you've taken $8,000 out of LIO to fund it. Does that cover it?
Okay, Mr. Ramden.
So by transferring this money, the expenditure in the Register of Deeds office is not going to be part of the tax levy.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other
Thank you.
questions? Did you have something else, Tom?
No.
Oh, okay. Any other questions on Ms. Teskey's motion? Okay, yes is to transfer the money and no is to deny that. The motion is approved, 19 yes, 0 no. Okay. Paul is working on it. Ms. Teskey, yes.
Is there any money in the contingency fund?
100,000.
Is there such a thing anymore?
We always budget every single year $100,000 in the contingency fund, and we start every year with that contingency fund. Could the board reduce that amount of the contingency fund? They could. My recommendation is to always keep it at $100,000. If there's excess money that comes afterwards, there is a policy that the Finance Committee follows regarding the use of that surplus contingency fund. We wouldn't be using 2019 contingency funds to fund something in 2020.
Isn't that that's a non-lapsing account, isn't it?
Do you want to hit this one?
We have 100,000 annually budgeted in contingency for the year as for things that may come up. Anything unused rolls into the general fund balance assigned to the contingency fund. It's the very same name. So what we're talking about in the annual budget process probably should be the 100,000, or we're taking it out of fund balance. And if we're going to do that, that's been set aside for issues that come up, then we're better off just taking it from the land information fund, where there's already been
No, I'm not,
established.
I'm talking about the extension money now. That's what I'm talking about. How much money is in that contingency fund?
The contingency assigned fund balance is at 400,000, and it's capped at that. So anything unused from the annual budget, the $100,000, would go into there for, again, bigger unforeseen events.
And HVAC blows out.
Okay. I have to confer with Paul.
We're still short $38,011.
Take it as county board payroll?
When we used to have small
tried, they
things
said
like that,
no
it
to
would
that.
come out of contingency and not general fund.
Linda, we just took 60,000 out of the general.
What?
We just took 60,000.
Okay, to maintain the proposed budget net tax levy and also the tax rate, we need to find $38,011 to fund the budget if we're going to use the entire levy and not underuse our levy limit. So the floor is open to any other suggestions to find the $38,011 to fund the amendments that we made prior. Mr. Romden.
I have another proposal for an amendment. Again, this may require some discussion, especially by the UW Extension Committee. There's a proposal in the budget that there's $20,000 expenditure to use for remodeling space at the Luxembourg building that the county owns where the land and water is. This was discussed at the UW Extension Committee and also at the Executive Committee, and it was decided that before any money is expended, there should be some type of a study done to find out if there is in fact sufficient space in Luxembourg to accommodate UW Extension. And I don't know that that has started yet, or if any progress has been made on that, but and I don't know if that's going to happen in 2020 or not. If it does, it's possible that instead of spending tax levy money on that type of operation, we could, if it does happen and it's going to be done, we could take that money out of the capital improvement fund at some point. So my recommendation is to amend the budget. This is on page 269 again under UW Extension. It would be to remove it's account number 155,620,813, I believe. It would be deducting $20,000 from the outlay account under UW Extension.
Thank you, Tom. Are you expressing that as a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion is to remove $20,000 from extension outlay that was intended to do office reorganization at the fairgrounds to accommodate a move to that facility. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Koshart. Any discussion on that? I would agree with Tom that if we remove it and at some later date we need to find it, there's several ways to find it. I think we would like to keep our levy where it's at and try to balance this out before we are done amending. So are there any questions about the motion? everyone knows where it is, page 269, the last entry on the page. It isn't labeled, but it is for some office fixtures over at the fairgrounds. You may register your vote. Yes is to accept the amendment and remove the 20,000. No is to deny it. Lee? Oh. The amendment is approved, 19 yes, 0 no. Well, we're not quite there yet. Okay, now we have found the 20,000 and the amount remaining to maintain our total levy and our tax rate is $18,011.
Of the contracted services, are they all out of that same fund as the broadband study was, or are some of them levying? No, all of the contracted services are through a general fund balance transfer.
What page? Because there's numerous contracted services.
That was under number 20. I'm on page 20 under the administrator's budget, the $145,500. All of that money is entirely a general fund balance transfer.
I just want to run a suggestion by the board. We appropriated money for the lean program, but I don't believe we used much of that. Paul, do you recall?
It's in the works now, so I don't know how much is going to be spent. Human Services has
Okay, and we appropriated 20 or 25?
25.
25 for this year, which some of that is unused, but we don't know how much, so likely some of that will get turned back to the general fund.
Yes.
Mr. Romden, you're doing well. Keep it up.
Again, this is in reference to what Bob just referred to, the Lean 6 funding for 25,000 in the 2020 budget. I'm a believer in professional development, employee education, all that good stuff, and saving money and efficiencies. However, we appropriated $25,000 in the 2020 budget, and to this point in time, the program has just been initiated, and I don't know if everybody remembers the total objective of the program. It has merit. However, we haven't finished. I believe it's going on in the Human Services Department right now, and maybe a couple other side departments. I'm not sure, but anyway, I don't know. Other than looking for efficiencies in departmental operation, I don't know what other measurables there are out there to address. Did we spend $25,000 wisely, or did we not spend it wisely? What I'd like to see is, after this current project is complete, I'd like to see the administrator and maybe the departments that were involved come to the board and give us a report on what happened, how did it work, was it worth the money, did we accomplish anything? And after that, we can decide to go forward again in other departments, spending other amounts of money, not knowing how much we're going to spend. But at this point in time, I would like to amend the, this is on page 20 of the budget. It's line item 100, 514, 162. There's a $25,000 in there for professional, let's see, I think it's called professional development. I'd like to see that money removed for taken out of the 2020 budget until we can get more information on what happened to the current project that's involved. So that would be my motion, to take $25,000 out of that line item.
And we're looking for another 18,011. You want to remove all of it, Tom?
18,000. What are we looking for?
18,011.
I would amend my motion to make the amount of reduction $18,011.
$11. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to get to zero here. Second, Mr. Poppy seconds the motion. Any further questions about it? You may register your vote. Yes is to approve taking $18,011 out of the lien appropriation. No is to deny it. The motion is approved, 16 yes, 3 no. Okay, we are at a zero net change in the levy and the tax rate. Are there any other motions to amend our budget? Mr. Romden.
This is not another motion to amend. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all the board members for supporting the amendments that were approved tonight. I think that in the long run, everyone will be satisfied with what happened to the budget this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Paul, I'm going to ask, are we at zero for sure? Paul says yes. And there are no further amendments or comments on the budget? Very good. Now, taken as a whole, we need to approve the budget as amended. We should probably summarize that. I don't think we need to summarize it. Let's not summarize it. My notes aren't that good. Yes, Mr. Kunish. Let's take a second and let Paul Oh, okay. We're in recess for a few minutes. Don't go away too far. Yeah, and let's take a little time, make sure we don't have to come back and diddle with it.
Oh boy, that salvage, yeah.
Oh, must have been a bad meeting.
I only came with this much to begin with.
I thought we were ready. But okay, we are ready. Pull out your resolution that is the budget resolution.
Okay.
Paul is going to go through the effect all the amendments had on the numbers on the first page of that tax levy resolution. I don't know if he knows that yet, but yes, he is going to do that. Update the numbers, and you may change your resolution as he gives you the new numbers.
Okay, I have 3 numbers that they're changing.
Okay.
The very first line, general government expenditures, new number, 4,187,119. Recreation and education, new number, 1,411,317. And the last, fund balance retained, 61,214. Tax levy, tax rate remain exactly the same.
Paul, could you repeat fund balance retained, please?
Sure. 61,214.
Thank you.
And that adds up to that same number at the bottom.
The exact same number, yes.
All right. Then on the back of the resolution, Paul, tax rate is exactly the same also.
Tax rate remains the same.
$7.08 per thousand.
700.
That's a hell of a way to go.
It's a way to rake in the money, Chairman.
I would like to make that motion to amend.
You did a good
Okay,
job there.
we have made our amendments. We have reconciled all the pluses and minuses. And we have a motion to approve. Do I need a new motion to approve as amended? Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve the budget as amended. All we have to do is the final vote. Yes is to approve the amended budget. No is to continue discussing.
Could you tell me who made the motion and who seconded?
Jamie, you want to, I can't recall that. I don't think I wrote that down.
I didn't either, that's why I'm
The
asking.
motion to approve the budget, the original.
Supervisor Massler moved and Luft seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you may register your vote. Yes is to approve the amended budget. No is to continue to discuss.
Thought I voted, I'll do again.
The motion, the resolution is approved, 18 yes, 1 no. That completes our 2020 budget discussion.
I haven't signed it either.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. There's a copy of the resolution going around. Can we sign that without changing the numbers, or?
We changed the numbers for you. It's right here.
Oh, you did, okay.
Right there. Sign your name away.
Jamie, you can clean that up later. Yeah, okay. They already did self-help over there. Okay, next on the agenda is second reading of ordinance. There are non-communications from other counties. Would the clerk please read those?
From Wood County, encouraging the Wisconsin legislature to revise the statutes for a consistent charge for court costs, fees, and surcharges in the office of the clerk of courts and register and probate. For Algoma County, support pending legislation that would require the Department of Revenue to annually publish on its internet site information related to the determination of utility aid payments received by counties and municipalities where production plant property is located. And Algoma County urged the Wisconsin governor and legislatures to research and understand the reasons behind the out-migration of the millennial population, as well as why people are not moving to Wisconsin for available jobs, as detailed in the attached 3 articles published by Forward Analytics.
Thank you. Next is Kewaunee County events. Does anyone have events for us? Ms. Dobbins.
I mentioned this last month, but it's still coming up. On Saturday, November 9th, the Violence Intervention Project is having their 30-year gala. It'll be at JW's place. There's going to be a silent art auction and a live auction of very high-quality art. It's going to be honoring 3 original founders of Violence Intervention Project. It's a good community event this Saturday at JW's.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Olson.
St. Paul Lutheran Church Montpelier has their annual Veterans Service this Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Nice recognition for the veterans, and the veterans get free lunch afterwards. I'm planning to go to that one.
Thank you. Anyone else? It's mandatory. Okay, next is comments from the chair. I already mentioned the Broadband Study Committee is making some progress. I'd say pretty good progress. We'll be making some decisions shortly. The Broadband Study Committee is going to make a recommendation to the Executive Committee, which then will also act on that recommendation. Some of us have been making tours to the some jails in the state. I did not go to Green Lake County, but a number went to that one. I went to Oconto and Door County jails. Extremely interesting tours. The process of housing prisoners is very complex, and our facility has nowhere near enough facilities to comply with the modern rules in jailing. So we did get some presentations from some excellent people, employees of those counties. They answered all our questions, and I learned a lot about what happens in a jail, and not in a good way. All right, next meeting. Yes, Chuck.
You learned it in a good way. You don't want to learn it the bad way. Being arrested and having to live through that.
Learned it in a very safe way. Yes, you're right. We have our dates set through February. I need a motion to approve March 17, 6 o'clock. Motion by Wagner, second by Mr. Dell. Any questions about that date, March 17? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. I forgot to ask Linda about her Christmas party. Do we know anything on that?
Everything is all set. It'll be at Moe's, like last year. I didn't have enough time to get invitations out for tonight, but everybody will get an invitation, yeah.
I thought we were trying to get it in Kewaunee.
You told me I could go anywhere I wanted. That's what you told me last month.
Oh, okay. It will be at Moe's.
I did ask some supervisors where they wanted it, so they told me wherever.
Good. I hope we get a really good turnout. It's usually a lot of fun time to discuss things other than business. And
But the chairman can't go home so early.
well, I get up early. I got up at 3 o'clock this morning.
Good.
But I had a nap.
Linda, if it's at Moe's, tell them to make a little more room between the tables this year.
Room between the tables?
I already told him that.
Thank you.
Okay, and we should line somebody up for a prayer, and I have somebody in mind.
The chairman.
Well, we will have a prayer, yes, that's for sure. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Wagner, second by Augustine. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, we are adjourned.